Well, hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner of the internet once again. Thank you for joining me. And it's Saturday, it's the 9th of October. I can't believe over a week of October has gone already. And here in the valleys of South Wales in the United Kingdom, it's a bit grey. It's a hint of mist in the air, cloud. I don't know if it's going to clear up today. I don't actually know what the forecast is. But it feels autumnal. There's a few more yellow leaves on a tree opposite me, and I can see hints of yellow elsewhere. So all things being okay and an Amazon delivery allowing, depends on the time of it, I am definitely going to get my backside into gear and I'm going to go out for a walk. Now I've got petrol in my car, yet don't ask. Yeah. The news about the situation in the UK, I'm sure, is being laughed at worldwide in many ways, but and commiserated with, and well, yes. Anyway, less of that, because October means it's Inktober, and for just over a week I've been taking part in the Inktober challenge. I did start planning to do the official prompt list and the Tangle list, but within a couple of days I realised that I was far more enthused by the Tangle list than I was the official prompt list. I think I'll chat as we go through it, I think. But Dave, I'm going to go through Inktober from the beginning. I'm likely to do this a few times. I know I showed this last week, but I think it looks nice. You can see the progression of how my thoughts about what I'm doing and finding my groove, as it were, have developed over the past few days with regard to this challenge. So it all started on the 1st of October with the prompt for the Tangle Patterns challenge was Lunar Flux, and I started off doing a page like this with pencil sketches, some of which I've inked in, and I did 2 tiled tangles for this day. One with the Inktober challenge on, which was crystals, which I've got here, and there's the Lunar Flux. And looking back on this after over a week, I quite like this. I really do. It's me, it's very, this is how it's going to go. It's quite structured. I've realised this about me. There is no, people have to be not subtle with me and innuendo at times. I take things too seriously and too strictly, too literally, and so's the same with crystal. And when I draw things, sometimes I get stuck in this is how it needs to be, it has to be a scene. Sometimes I don't, it depends what I'm doing. But this one, I mean, at the end of it all, I quite like it. I like the greens, I like the different greens, the warm greens and the cool greens, and what I particularly love is the highlight and contrast that's given this some real volume, especially to those lunar fluxes sticking out there. And I just wanted to do a tangle that had just basically lunar flux and not much else on. And it's upside down, but it doesn't matter. And this one is quite a delicate pink, and I've got the lunar flux around the circle. This is Crescent Moon, but I sort of like mirrored it on the inside there, and there's gold and glaze and some white souffle pen to add patterns in these little sections. I like that. It's very delicate, and there is contrast, but not as much as I'd like. I like the gold around here. Day 2, and there's my sketches for crystals on the other side there, because I have been working a fair amount in my sketchbook. But this sketchbook, I have a number of sketchbooks that I'm working in for various things. And it was Naki. And Naki, it's got 2 A's, perhaps should be Naki, was an interesting tangle for me to explore, because it's not one that I would have picked to use myself if I came across it when browsing through tanglepatterns.com or Pinterest or, you know, whatever else, because it doesn't automatically appeal to me as a tangle. But as I started working with it, playing, as people say, I don't like the word play, but working on iterations and variations. Variations is a good word. The Zentangle themselves use explorations. So, but working on variations and trying different things out, I discovered that it became quite an interesting tangle, especially that you can shade it in a couple of different ways, like this one and this one, and you get a different kind of dimensionality happening, or the way that space seems to warp and blend just with the use of shadow and highlight. The prompt for the official prompt Inktober list that day was suit, and I went with suit of cards because the thought of drawing a suit you wear didn't really appeal to me. And I wasn't quick enough to think about tarot cards and suits in tarot cards, which would be easy to use as little toppers instead of these, so there's no big deal about it. But it worked, you know, it was fun to do. But I like the borders, and I like it when they alternate. I messed up here, sort of. I didn't have one up, one down. I ended up with two up, two down. Two up, two down. But it's fine. Putting it in a circular pattern with the pattern going inwards and actually closing the top of the pattern was an interesting way of creating a different kind of flower. I like these matchsticky things here. But I also tried it not just in the circular arrangement, but in rectangles. That does look like the back of a playing card you could use. Or even did some hexagons. I don't think I did a triangle. I'm not quite sure how that would work. But I think you'd have to, yeah, it would work, but you'd have very big gaps between them, I think. But that could be interesting and fun on its own. So that's one page. And there's more. There's a whole page here. DI work, this book ends up like Sketchbook's doing all directions with me. I don't have one way up. It's whatever is comfortable and wherever the binding is, because it gets in my way. So I just turn the page so it makes me happy. So here I did a block of the 4 suits. That's quite fun. I like the way that you can put that central motif in and echo the shape of it, reflect the shape, use the shape to guide the aura it. This was interesting as well. This is Naki, but it's in a triangular form. I did it as a border and I put the shadow in different places. It doesn't quite work, and I'm not quite sure why it doesn't quite work that way. But adding little shapes at the bottom was fun as well there. And of course, that was an obvious thing. I say an obvious thing for me to do. I do like things in borders. And if you know me and my art, I love arches, and arches are really bent borders. So border patterns are my kind of thing, especially if they're repeating and geometrical. Although I do like botanicals and organic as well, but not in arches. Because off on a random jaunt, my favourite kind of arches are Romanesque arches, which are circular arches. Gothic and early English are pointy, and I prefer the rounded ones, and the patterns within them are geometric. You don't often get organic patterns there. You can do, but it's the geometric ones. And so I've been drawing borders with geometric patterns in for over 20 years now. Well, it must be, getting on for 20 years. And it's a natural thing for me to use because I'm still fascinated with them. It just tickles my arty heart in a nice way. So there's here, I carried on. Looking at this one, it could actually be fun to put little skulls in there for Halloween. Let me make a note. Halloween skulls, pen, pencil, something to write with, for goodness sakes. I've got a room full of them. Try skulls. That'll just remind me, because I have these ideas and then I forget about them, and there's no way I'm going to listen to all of my videos. They lurk around there. This one I thought I'd try different ways of adding pattern. I like this one. I'm not so fussed on these, and I'm not fussed with putting patterns in between them. But until you try it, you don't know, and that's the whole point of it. This was fun to do, where I joined the end of the narky and the little beads there. Then day 3, and this is the tile I did day 2, because I had, day 3 because Dude's in there, so 2 and 3, because I started doing, sort of like traditional tiles. So I've got some Lunar Flux, I've got Narky, and I've got Dude, all 3 of the tangles for the first 3 days, and yeah, it works. It's nice. It's typically me, sort of like creating a scene out of things. Yeah, I like to create a scene in my art. I'm being very logical about such things because that's what I do. So Dude is something that I played with somewhat. I've got a page of stuff. I've got space on there for more if more ideas come. But the main thing that got me really was how you can put different things in the circles there, and the different arrangements are fun, sort of like they can grow, they can be like a wreath or a border, or it would fill an arch quite nicely. Yes, it would fill an arch, a border. But mainly it was, what can I put in the middle instead of just little teardrop shapes or little circles? Eyes, googly eyes. Oh yeah, starey googly eyes, very Halloweeny. And I tried different things like, I've got metallic in there. There's even some metallic on the middle bit inside, which was interesting. That was it's a gold metallic jelly roll pen, which has gone bizarre. There's ink in it, but it's gone bizarre. But yeah, so that was Dude. And then next day, day 4, was whipped cream. And this one had me all of a bit of a dither in some ways, as I couldn't figure out much to do with it that would be different. I kept exploring. I tried squashing things together and making them thicker. Where you start with this sort of like S shape, Artwyrd S shape in Zentangle speak, between the circles, the orbs, was to fill that with pattern to bring it out so you could see it, and it really does help with that up and down flow. But what I think intrigued me more, or 2 things intrigued me, was this idea of piling individual whipped cream motifs like this one in a big crazy pile, where they just grow. You start from one and just allow them to grow out in a random kind of way. I enjoyed that because I do like doing the so-called crazy patterns, where instead of having a regular grid, you make a wobbly wonky one, and it changes the whole look of the pattern. The half, what I called semi-whipped cream, like semi-skim milk, but semi-whipped cream, was that I like. It's quite leafy in feel, quite organic-y in feel, and I thought that could be something really interesting to use on its own. And I think I did somewhere. I could be wrong, maybe. But this was the tile I did for day 4. So I've got Dude, I've got whipped cream, I've got Lunar Flux, but no Narky. And I used coloured pencils here, or coloured drawing pencils, and blended them with a blending pen. And really, I'm not happy with my colouring, but from a distance it looks okay. And there's a theme with the colours here. They're all very vintagey, that earthy browns and so on. I don't know when I started liking earthy colours so much, or why, but I do. I really like them. So that was day 4. Day 5 was a army, and that's by Zentangle by Emiko Kaneko. And again, this one I couldn't get much different with it myself. I've discovered I don't like filling tangles with other tangles very much, depending on this type of tangle. So organic tangles, I don't like it particularly. But again, I found that the single leaf is a lot like whipped cream. I say single, half of the army. And I found it easier to draw this if I started with 3 sort of leaf shapes that had this S curve in them to begin with. I just found it a lot easier to complete the pattern rather than drawing half and then a line across and so on. But I did see a YouTube video where somebody did that and then used that as the starting point for these bits that aura it, because that's what I struggled with most. But here I got to something that I like, and this one I did it to the right, which is how the official pattern did. Here I did it to the left completely by mistake. I did that one first, then I slotted that one in, and I thought, well, let's have a look and see what happens if I do it both times, making kinds of V shapes. And that I really like that one as well, so it gives it a different feel. And I did use this in the border of some art, which I think, is it next? No, it's around here somewhere, I think. Oh yeah, let me have a look. Oh, it will be somewhere. And this was the official tangle for day 4, which was not. Do you know what? I don't know whether I used day 3's. Can't remember what day 3's was. But knot I did. I went with knot because I got some practice drawing Celtic knots. I haven't drawn Celtic knots for years and years and years, and I seem to remember finding it easier than I did this time. I couldn't get my head round instructions I looked for online, and then I remembered I've got quite a few books still of instructions of Celtic patterns, so I picked one out, and it's by Sheila Sterrock. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called, but her instructions suddenly made sense to me and I went with them. She actually bases them all on hearts, like this. You draw lots of hearts on a simple dot grid, and the dot grid made some sense to me, and how you aura inside and outside. So it's kind of worked in my brain a bit more like a Zentangle pattern would. But just a few small ones there, and fun was had for a couple of hours at least. And then this is the one I did for day 4. I think it was. Am I up to day 4? I think I am day 4. I'm losing track here. I did this whole page tangle, and I've used all kinds of media on it. The border on the outside is a army, but it's just half, or just one of the petals, one of the leaves, with aura on both sides, just to fill that in with a leafy border. This is Naki. We've got Lunar Flux. I've got some little spirals there, print on, and then Muka. And I coloured these. I used a fine liner pen there. The colours you see are with Pit Artist pens, which are India ink filled pens. Not something I'd use ordinarily, but Inktober's a time to have a look in your stash and see what you like or what you don't like as well. And they work nicely enough. They're not the best on, it's not, you know, it's sketchbook paper. But this black in here, I did want to go back and add little dots in there, like little stars, so it's like a glimpse through the clouds into the night sky perhaps. But I was quite pleased with that. Oh, shade shadow, I used like a 2B or something like that pencil. But what I don't like about graphite pencils is you get, that's why I went to the Pit Artist pens, because with graphite pencils you get this kind of shininess, and I don't like that shininess. But I had a thought which I may share. And the Inktober for day 5 was raven, and ravens are my absolute favourite birds. I absolutely love ravens and other corvids. There's a lot of them around me, and when they're busy outdoors and I notice them, they're so funny, the way they squabble and the things they do, and they just make me smile and laugh. And I thought I'd do them, and they're going, Angela, I've got a lot of work to do if I want to create sort of like representational is not my kind of thing, as in artistic. If I most probably could quite happily sit and draw from you know, a reference photograph or whatever, I've taken a raven or something else, and do a pretty good job of it. And I'm not bragging or boasting. I do have good sketching, drawing skills. I just don't utilize them because I much prefer drawing things that make me smile, that are cute and whimsical and fun and cuddly and have a charm of their own. And I think in the back of my mind, I've long wanted to create ravens or birds or other animals that could tell stories, or that could have, you know, expressions and poses and so on. I've got a lot of work to do on that one, but nevertheless I completed it. And I think this is where I thought, no, we're not doing any more of the Inktober challenges, because I've got to draw a raven and everything about me sort of goes off in different directions. So day 6 was where I really started, along with the army and a couple before, to realise that these whole pages of exploring patterns and seeing what I can do with them was really what I'm enjoying here about Inktober. And this is a tangle pattern called Burst by Kelly Barron. There's an E on the end. So sorry, Kelly, if I've mispronounced your name, if you ever watched this. But I had a lot of fun with this. It's crazy. It's a crazy version with a wibbly wobbly grid. But these are the kinds of patterns I really like. What I really enjoyed here was using little organic motifs to go into these little arches and changing the shapes up. This kind of thing has become a favourite. In fact, I've used this sort of like 2 spirals and a little arch, a little, I don't know, what would you call it, thing in the middle in my art a lot in the past year or so. It's appeared in sort of like things that look quite Mayan or Aztec in some way, in blocks of stone and other things. So it was natural I'd include it there. And again here with this kind of spiral thing, I've been doing that. Well, I've actually done it for a long time, but in the past year it's really crept in and become a favourite. But this one I just used graphite and white chalk, white pastel, to add highlights and some dots of white souffle, and that was fun. And then that led me to, excuse me a moment, because I know where that is. It's under my scanner still. To this week's, I've got to get this out ready. Colouring template, and I just wanted to use gridded patterns, repeating patterns, symmetrical, and I had a lot of fun with this. I have partly coloured it in. I've done about a quarter of it, just over a quarter of it, and that you can see on my blog, on my social media, and I really, really enjoyed doing that. And this repeating pattern, because there are some organics here, you know, I've got, was it poke roots, and I've got some leaves there, and these are leaves or petals that came from a Persian tile, which I love because they're very geometric and non-representational. And then there was somewhere else I used something. Did I? I'd planned to, or perhaps I'd varied it somewhere. No, I haven't. But I'd also seen medieval tiles. I've got books of tiles and patterns from over the centuries, and I was looking through them. But I know this is a Zentangle pan. I don't know what it's called. And these are variations on Burst. So I've got these spirals and everything else. This is the pen drawing. Obviously, I cleaned it up digitally, you know, where I went, oops. Instead of that line going in, I made it go out. So I tidied that up. Digital art, being able to work digitally, has meant that I no longer stress out about such things or trying to correct them. I do that all by the power of technology. So that was fun this week, and I really did it, and I drew it by hand. It would have been a lot quicker and a lot easier if I decided to draw it digitally. It would have taken me a fraction of the time, but no, I was going to do it by hand. This is an interesting one because I did this ahead of doing the page for day 7, which was Morrisseau, which is, again, it's a tangle pattern I would never have chosen, except I've used or drawn such things in the past, and it hadn't appealed to me particularly, but I'm going with a challenge, so I had a look, and I thought about it, and I decided I'd rather like to use it. So I'd started drawing here these weird and wonderful things. This is typically my kind of art, as anybody who knows me knows. I've called it Intangles for years, long before I discovered Zentangle, because it is all tangled up and all wibbly wobbly and, you know, sort of randomly, and things just slot in and go together. But nowadays more Zentangle stuff appears in it, so perhaps it's a combination of entangled art and Zentangle inspired, or perhaps, you know, either way, I'm not quibbling about it, but it's my kind of thing. And then I thought, done all of this, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to try this Morrisseau out here, which is what I did. And I enjoyed using it because it's one of those things that has got these shapes and connectors, and it can end up looking a bit like stained glass, which I love, or crazy tiles, which I also love. And with this one, these pages, by the way, they've been coloured with distress inks because I was getting a bit fed up of working on white paper again. So I can choose to or not. So I've decided to colour them. But I've added colour here on these brighter colours. I've used Ecoline brush pens, which have a watercolour ink in them. And it's very bright and very vibrant, even with the tiniest amount. And I wasn't putting the colour directly onto the paper because this is cartridge paper, so it's not watercolour paper or mixed media paper where the ink would move. It does reactivate, but it tends to grab on a lot more, so you end up with a dark spot, and you know, and it will soak up a lot more ink as well at the first touch. So I put it on a palette and used it that way, and it's still incredibly vibrant. So I thought, oh, let's have a try with something else. So, and for to add shadow to these pieces in between, which are a bit like paving stones in some ways, I used graphitint pencils, and I use them over here, and I much prefer the graphitints. They're much more subtle in colour, even though I've got quite dark tones under here. They've still got that less saturated feel to them, which I particularly like. Now, I know I could achieve that with the Ecoline by adding black or another colour to, usually a complementary colour, I think it is, to dull it down. But I also like the vibrancy, but not here. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will let me know. But whether I finish adding colour to this, I don't know, because it's Inktober, so sketchbooks are for leaving things partly done. It's trying things out, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, and learning and moving on. But you know, there's other patterns. There's Dude here. We've got Narky. I popped in there. There's a whipped cream arch there as well. Any others? Can spot? Oh, some crescent moon in that bit. That I may turn all black. I'm not fussed on that bit. This is sort of like crescent moon, but instead of leaving the little black, well, it is and it isn't. I don't know what you call it. So yeah, they look all piled together like little crystals or whatever, because I thought, yeah, it'd be fun to have them all sort of like bunched up. But this, again, these are kinds of shapes and ways of drawing things that I've done myself and I particularly enjoy. I've seen people do these shapes quite big and turn them into like gems, or fill them with tangle patterns, so they've become, what do you call them? A string? You know, whatever. And I'm not fussed on them personally. They don't work for me. I admire other people's work, but when it comes to me, it's not my sort of thing. So of course then, this is yesterday, I just had to play around with Moriso, and I had a lot of fun doing this yesterday. In fact, I spent way too much time playing about with this and yesterday's tangle. This one, I had some gold paints here, not watercolours, they're more like a gouache, but I think they're the Japanese Gansaitambi. They're not the Kuretake ones, they're a different brand, Koramibi, but I must have put them away when they were dripping wet and it's gone everywhere. So I've ordered new ones, but metallic gouache, because they are opaque, or more or less opaque, and gel pens, like the metallic gel pens, they never give a smooth finish because you're dragging the ball through it and moving it around. Whereas with paints you can get a really smooth metallic finish, and these I really like. And I do have a fondness for metallic and sparkle. It keeps the inner raven in me happy. Not magpies, raven. I have a raven inside, I'm sure. Ragpies are cool, but you know, ravens are my favourites. And here's where I tried to put in patterns inside them. And at the end of it all, I went, nah, I prefer colour, metallics. That's about it. I actually managed to create a border with Moriso. I thought, let's have a look. It looks a bit like a river and stepping stones. So that was fun. And this one has a curly edge. I thought I've missed a black line there. But I've tried adding white in different ways. These white lines I put on before I added the colour. They're the Sakura Souffle. And they, with the Graphitint pencils, I think I used all Graphitint pencils to add colour here, except for the metallics, obviously. But when you add them, the colour tends to settle next door to these, so it adds that extra bit of depth and dimension, and these end up looking a bit like shell fragments of cockle shells, which is lovely. And I did tried adding a white line on the edge where there's highlight, but I'm not fussed on that at all. I'm not sure if you can see it all that well. My lighting is bizarre today, but I put a white, if I pick it up, you see a white line, and it's a bit thick and a bit heavy, and it's not really me, but you have to try these things. I think that's why I prefer dots, because it breaks it up. This one was fun to add the dots. I did the colour first and the dots on top, and that was fun. But there's benefits to doing it both ways, benefits and drawbacks. So that was fun yesterday. And the other one I did yesterday was this one, which is a page full of Zenith. Again, this one has lots of possibilities, not many of which I could access yesterday. But it's the basic idea is, you can see the rice shapes, as they call them, the little leaves here. You have a chain of them. And the easiest way to draw them is with a big arch. It's like the humps of a hill or the dips with mountains in between, and then you go back in and add these two shapes, and it creates a nice sort of chain or a nice repeating pattern as a ribbon. And it can be wobbly, it can be straight, it can be circular. And the idea here then is that where you've got these dips down between the rice shapes, you add triangles, but you could add other shapes and do other things. And I've just got a few ideas and variations here that I just want to play with. I like this one where it's got the different nesting. And I actually did go on yesterday afternoon to spend some time creating a mandala digitally to start doing. I did draw it, I'm adding colour. And this pattern actually appeared in there, or something similar to this, because I really did enjoy doing that. This one, I did some weird stuff with it, but it's worked out nicely around the edge. So it's a start. You say that at the start. And then yesterday evening, while I was watching television, well, Star Wars, yeah, I needed a dose of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, so I watched a couple of, well, finished watching one and carried on with the next film last night. So this, I was drawing whilst watching, listening, and it started over here with this. I draw columns from time to time, or pillars, or whatever you want to call them, and with no intention of it looking like anything, but it ends up looking like something. So Zenith is in there. We've got Diva Dance there, I think it is. There's some poke leaf. Is that Toodles? It is. Muka, of course. That's the Tangle pattern you saw in the colouring book. I don't know its name. And that's actually there as well, colouring book, colouring page. But these are just blocks and shapes that I like, and these kinds of things appear in my personal art quite often. And there's lots more to carry on with here, and I will carry on with it because I enjoy drawing, and it's in my sketchbook because it's all part of this month. And it's upside down. And then this is today's, which I haven't done anything more with. But again, this one strikes me in some ways as being similar to Army in a way. But I did want to play around with it and see where I get. I think that's the kind of official way to do it, where you extend it, and these end up looking a bit like mussel shells actually. So I drew it again, but instead of having the straight edge there, I actually curved it a little bit because I much prefer curvy shapes. And then I did it again here with a more pronounced curviness. And I think, if I remember rightly, I actually put pencil guides as to what direction I wanted these to go in, so that would make it easier for me to have the kind of shape I wanted. I mean, you know, I could have taken it all the way out to here so that the last one would meet here, but I didn't. This one was a weird attempt at doing it kind of on a spiral. It sort of has worked and sort of hasn't. It reminds me a bit of a succulent, but a succulent gone weird. It's a mutant succulent. But adding shadow and highlight has helped. And here I've used a white gel pen, a Signo, Uniball Signo, on this page to add white, because I thought it would be less, because the Sakura Souffle is so opaque. Things like the Signo pen will pick up colour, or if you've got water-soluble colour, they'll pick it up. It's not as opaque. So I thought it'd be a bit more subtle than it is. This is just, not graphite, but charcoal pencil and white chalk pastel pencils to add shadow and highlight there. Same here. And I remembered I'd got some charcoal pencils in my stash, not the Graffy tint, but charcoal. And so I thought I'd dig those out and try those and see what happens. And with them, you don't get that shininess you get with graphite. It's very dull, which is not unexpected. And so I've ordered some coloured charcoal pencils, tinted charcoal. And I will order some white charcoal pencils when I run out of white charcoal pencils. But but that works quite nicely. The black doesn't spread as easily as graphite pencils, but that suits me because I prefer to keep it in a place rather than have it spread everywhere. But the white pastel, or the white pencil, actually went over the top of it and covered up a lot of that. So on the screen, it's all a bit, contrast has been increased, or is it being increased here? And it's not as, there's more subtlety to it. The coloured ones here are with Graffy tint, and I thought I'd change the shape of the leaf shape or petal shape you start with in the middle. Actually, a heart shape would be fun to do. Just thought about that. Pen. There. Glasses. Here. Let's have a look. Look at this. So I wonder if I can get... Because you know I do love my hearts. That would actually work quite nicely, I think. And there's a little bead there. That would work. So, just like to have a look and see. So I've done those. And then I had thought, where did I draw one? I drawn one somewhere. And instead, it was over here. And instead of there being an arch out, it actually dipped inwards. I lost concentration. I do that a lot. So I thought I'd try that, and you end up with things that look almost like a folded dragon wing in some way, but it gives it a different kind of feel. And that would be actually fun to add little things on the tips. That would work nicely. But I've also tried adding leaves and things. I mean, you know, different kinds of organic leaves coming up. I've thrown in the lunar fluxes that are made out of a single teardrop shape there, a little frond of leaves, muka. It's sort of a dewed kind of thing. It's not dewed, but it's fescue. No, it's not fescue. There's something, it's like an aurad fescue. And I popped some leaves in there. These ones are by, Emiko Kanika. Can't remember what she calls them, but they're sort of like a folded over ivy leaf. You can see almost, you know, just over half of it. And it was just that shape there reminded me of the edge of it. So I thought, let's have a look and see what would happen if I put one or two of those in there. And they actually work. I think they work nicely. They work harmoniously. You know, these others do. We could do with a couple more there. And that is as far as I've got. Quick look at my next pages. Talk about scuzzy colours, but you know, we're talking distress inks here. They're not meant to be nice and clean. So that's been my week in art, very quickly. And I'm having fun. It's Inktober, but it is distracting me from things I do need to do, like my adorable dog's book. But I know that when I settle to it, it'll get done. It's just been a strange week. It's always a strange week for me, but it has been. You know, I've had a couple of days of upset stomachs again, and just so tired. You know, I don't know how or why, I just am. So I'm going to have to look at my B vitamins, because B vitamins and iron, because that's often the case with me. Everything's fine otherwise. I had a check-up just a couple of weeks ago, so this is just one of those things. The upset stomachs are hormonal, mind you. Anyway, I'm talking too much there. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look through my art of the week. I'd like to say thank you for sticking with me if you've got this far, and I hope to see you back here again. Until then, take care of yourselves. Find time in your day to be creative, and enjoy what you can of life. Now take care. Bye-bye.